think realistically the property values in Barrington Hills are based on the open spaces and the 5-acre zoning minimum. Without a trail system, and without a vibrant equestrian community supporting that trail system, we will probably lose any justification we have for 5-acre zoning.
There's no question there's a link between the trails, 5-acre zoning, and property values.
The private trail system is under constant threat from people moving out here and not supporting that trail system.
If we were to lose the trail system, you would unwind the value of individual properties, and ultimately you would lose 5-acre zoning.
The presence of riding trails in Barrington Hills has actually, in my opinion, enhanced the value of our property.
There's a history to this, and it's almost like a legacy that we need to pass on.
Riding since I was 4. I ride my horse about 3 times a week.
My horse's name is Magic.
I've been riding since I could sit up.
I thought I just have been sympathetic to anything related to horses in the community. I think they're a great asset.
I started riding when I moved here to Barrington Hills when I was 9 years old.
I ride out in the open, just riding in the forest preserve, and I do mini events and horse shows.
And I ride 6 days a week with an intense fitness program.
Look, that, and you tap the horsey like that. You can do flat work. We go faster, like zoom, like that.
Horses aren't a hobby, they're a way of life.
It's something that has a mystic attraction. I don't think I've ever met anybody that didn't like to see a horse, if not in his own backyard, in the neighbor's backyard.
I can't get it close to you.
There is nothing more magnificent when I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to look out my kitchen window having my first cup of coffee, seeing somebody canter across the back of my property or somebody just taking a little leisurely ride.
I guess I get one of the straps.
So much of America is built on tradition. Tradition is one of the great aspects of America. So to have something like riding that youngsters can be doing, and then a senior person can be doing, and even doing it together, and even competing together. This was a great family event as far as I'm concerned. There's almost nothing as good.
That's what makes us special, I think. And that's why people come here, I believe. They may not be riders, but they come here for the atmosphere.
I basically mostly just trail ride. That's what I love to do.
I much prefer trail riding because of the beautiful scenery. It's different every time, and inevitably the horse sees something different every time, so it's exciting. They make it interesting that way.
After lessons, I usually go out on the trails just to run the miniature course with my friends, and then most of the time I'll go out on the trails with my mom and go into the deep forests and stuff.
The trail system is really, I think, the linchpin that keeps this community vital as an equestrian community and also as an open space community.
I think the trail system is the backbone of the equestrian lifestyle in Barrington, because without it, more development would probably come in, and just the connecting trails allows everyone to ride to see neighbors and just be able to go out and ride right out your back door. It's fabulous when I meet people from other parts of the country and tell them, you know, what we have here. They can't believe it. They just are just so in awe of a community like this. It's so special.
Horses in the trail system within the village provide a true interlink with all the properties within the village.
I don't know where else in the country we might find a community. There are some communities that have little bits and pieces, but they're more of islands. And in Barrington Hills, you can pretty much connect up north, south, east, and west along with the forest preserve. It's an extraordinary thing.
Horses and trails and the whole equestrian lifestyle are critical to the village because they really define the character of the village. If you look on our logos, if you look in the history of the village, if you look in the lifestyle that the residents enjoy, it's the relationship between the resident and nature and the environment.
Well, trail riding in Barrington Hills is just amazing. We have all these, and ever since we moved here, I've used the trails extensively. I use the private trails around our sector, and we have wonderful trails. And hook up with friends, ride together all the time. And for me, the trail riding is mostly social. You know, I don't really improve my riding that way, but it's a wonderful way to spend time with my friends and my neighbors and see my neighbors.
Barrington Hills is unique in the fact that it's one of the only communities, certainly in this area, that has the direct access trails.
What I absolutely love about trail riding is your ability to be with nature, be with your animal, learn a valuable lesson about riding and communicating with horses that you really don't always get in an arena environment.
The best part about riding the trails is it's like a sanctuary for me. My friends might go off to church on Sunday morning and I hit the trails. And I like to, most often I ride alone. And I regroup, it's quiet, it's one of my favorite times to ride is to be the first one in the woods after a snow. And there's no sound, there's no footprints, there are no telephones, there's no neon lights. It's absolutely awesome. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, I grew up in rural Barrington at a time when Barrington was pretty much all rural. It was all farmlands, very little development, and a lot of people had horses all over the greater Barrington area. And now when I go back to the area that I grew up in, it's really developed.
The trails, I like to have the wind in my hair. I think it's just being out in nature. It's Barrington Hills. You ride through people's properties. I've met so many of my friends by riding through the trails, riding through their properties, meeting their children, getting them involved with the horses, bringing them out, putting them up on our horses, and now they have horses, and they're involved in Pony Club, and I just love the whole community of it.
Pony Club a club where you learn how to develop good riding skills and horse management.
I do eventing and dressage.
It takes at least 200 people on 2 separate days. So it takes an entire community, not just the Pony Club that is the organizing sponsor of this horse trial.
When we lose the ability of that integrated trail system that traverses the entire township, then I think we really lose the way of life and the sensibility and the sensitivity of this community, which people who have horses or don't have horses that live here feel and become a part of and really recognize as valuable to their home.
It's so important to keep the trails contiguous because we have over 172 miles of trails, and if one of the areas is blocked or cut off, it cuts off a multitude of trails.
But recently we've had a couple very large properties close their trails, and that does indeed threaten the whole village.
Quite a few people belong to the riding club that don't have horses or aren't riders for social reasons.
All residents of Barrington Hills are eligible to belong to the riding club, and many do.
The riding club was founded 70 years ago, and part of its charge in its bylaws is the promotion of social intercourse. Barrington Hills is a widely spread community. We have very few social ties in this community. Either the country club, the grade school, or the riding club. And more, the riding club is filling that social void that a community such as this has.
It's really a great opportunity for people, especially if they're new to the area, to meet other people and become involved in the community.
The other thing that's important about the trails from my perspective as a polo player is if a horse does nothing but play polo, you run the chance of making them sour. So when my horses get on the trail, that's relaxation time for them. They don't have to think about flying mallets and banging into other horses. They can just relax. And
that is what the riding club does. They maintain 150 plus miles of a trail system, private and Cook County Forest Preserve trail system. They take care of the maintenance. They pay for the maintenance. They also are liaison with the landowners that the private trails are on. The riding club is the most unique organization I think I've ever run into.
You know, I think new property owners coming in most of the time are coming here loving the same thing we all came here for. We love the space, we love the trees, we love the woods, we love the wildlife. And I think sometimes that we need to, however, sensitize people to what all this takes and how important, if someone has a trail on their property, particularly if it's a historical trail, that has meaning to the history of our community and is an important piece of our trail system. And I think my experience has been, particularly with new homeowners, of introducing them to the horse and the equestrian way of life and what is necessary to maintain that, and helping them see that that little maybe dirt path down the side of their property or along the back of their property connects to something that is so big and so important to our equestrian way of life that most of them are quite sensitive to that. And also to helping them figure out that we're here to cooperate with them. We can move a trail here, we can move it there, but the important thing is the connectivity of our system.
I really couldn't imagine Barrington Hills without them, because it's just such a big part of our property and my experience here. We've many times we've met people on the trails who we didn't know, and they were our neighbors, and then we became close friends with them just by bumping into each other on the trail system.
Many people are moving out to this area and have little understanding of how important that trail system is. And occasionally we have people who have closed their trails or fenced their properties because they're concerned about deer coming into their gardens, or they want to keep their dogs in their yard, and in so doing, and quite unintentionally on their part, they are now threatening that 5-acre zoning that they came out here to enjoy.
If we were to lose the trail system, from the perspective of the village of Barrington Hills, it would be the equivalent of another community effectively losing its road system. You would unwind the character of the village. You would unwind the value of individual properties, and ultimately you would lose 5-acre zoning from in the long term against encroaching development. 5-acre zoning has to be defended on a number of different levels, because you need much more than simply to have an ordinance that says this is what our zoning is. You have to have an underlying land use basis. The trail system and equestrian activity provides a very large fraction of that foundational basis for protecting the 5-acre zoning.
Well, our experience with having the trail on the property has been great. I mean, the riders have been very, conscious of our property. They don't seem to ride on our property when it's wet. It's been a very pleasant experience.
The children love having horses on the property. We don't have any horses ourselves. Maybe in the future we will, since we have 4 daughters and they're very young yet, but no, I feel very safe.
As a new homeowner, I was concerned about, how the interaction was going to be with the horses on the property, and it hasn't been anything other than special.
The Riding Club has an insurance policy that protects landowners from liability in the event that a rider were to stumble or fall off their horse or trip on a rock or what have you. The landowners are named as additional insureds on our policy, so this covers them in the event of any mishap. Again, it's really something that hasn't occurred ever to my knowledge, but it provides some people with some extra reinsurance to the extent that they have those concerns. They are covered under our policy.
So it's really interesting to see the young kids ride, and I mean little ones, 5 and 6, coming up through the ranks. I know they've got a lot of great riders through the system that have come up through Pony Club.
Living in Barrington Hills gives the kids a wonderful opportunity to grow from loving ponies to going through the stages of competition, and some kids go on to become upper-level international competitors because of it.
We have children from our own pony club that have grown up and are riding at the international level.
Me and my horse this year have moved up to a harder level, competing across the country with upper level riders, and in the spring we got second at an intermediate horse trial in Georgia, and recently I competed at Wayne Horse Trials at the CSU 2-star level and we got first place.
People come from a several state region to participate in our horse trail.
Long term, I would love to get to the Olympics and be on the Olympic team.
In order to protect the open space issues with respect to the village, particularly a village like ours, which is very close to urban areas which are growing and surrounding the village, it's important that we maintain this activity because they help define our land use requirements within the village. They're a protective function.
Recent judicial decisions involving the 5-acre zoning in Barrington Hills made very clear that absent a compelling reason for 5-acre zoning, zoning had no effect.
It's a gift that these people who live here give us, the freedom to ride and get to know them, see the trails, be part of nature, and that's it.
By definition, if our property values are dependent upon open space out here, our property values can only go down if we lose our equestrian support.
I'd love to see a continuous horse community.
I don't know anywhere else that has such a wonderful system, and I do feel very fortunate that there was somebody that had the foresight to put this in place and that I can enjoy it. And I really feel that we need to look after it and pass it on to future generations so they can enjoy what our grandparents enjoyed when they were children.
Barrington Hills without the trails would definitely not be, like, it would just be an ordinary place. It wouldn't be special like it is.
It's been such a long tradition. For 70 years ago, the trails were here, and people have tried so hard to keep them here this whole time, and have them just suddenly go away and us be without them. I don't know what I would do.
Also, I'm working on trying to start cantering every jump on my big horse, Rocky.
I love going on trail rides and riding through the woods, especially if things are going hard in school or something. It's nice and relaxing to go out and have a fun day with my horse in the woods.
Well, it feels like I'm in the clouds, in the sky. That's what it feels like to be way up high on my pony.
which old lady, which old lady.